Today I am going to get caught up on my gardening tasks that I am really far behind on. And if you're behind on yours as well, I am here to show you an easy way where you can use an app that is free to help get you organized and keep you on task. It is not too late if you want to start a garden in 2025, or if you want to continue with an existing garden that you already have. It's really never been more important to learn how to be a little more self-sufficient, and especially when it comes to growing your own food and becoming less dependent on the grocery store as prices continue to skyrocket and we continue to see supply chain disruptions. So that's what I'm going to do today. I have mentioned before that I'm very far behind. Usually what I do is I will do my garden planning sometime in January or up to early February, and I go through all of my seeds and decide what I want to plant for that year. And that's what I've done this morning. I did plant some seeds 2 weeks ago, and before we end this video, I will show you those, give you an update on those. But typically what I do is early in the year, I go through and I decide everything I want to plant, and then I put it into my SeedTime app. If you're not familiar with SeedTime, it's seedtime.us, and they also have an app for your phone. And there is a free version and there is a paid version. I do have the paid version, which allows me a little more features in here, but not much. I think I'm able to do very detailed drawings on my garden layout, but you can still do a whole lot in this app without having the paid version. So I'm going to show you what I do, show you the app, get all caught up on my planning, and then the SeedTime app is going to tell me which of the varieties I want to plant. It's too late and I'm going to have to buy starts for those. And that way I can get those ordered for my April Azure standard order if they have it, or I can buy them from my local farmer's market. So I'm going to just kind of walk you through this as I go through my boxes here. Now what I've already done is I've gone through every single one of my seed holding boxes, which are photo boxes, and I have pulled out the varieties that I want to plant this year. So I'm all done with that. And now I just have to put those varieties into this year's garden in the SeedTime app. So let's take a look at that. This is inside my SeedTime app, and you can see over here on the left-hand side, it says My Crops. These are the plants that I've already started. I started those on March 15th. So that is all I have in here right now. And you can see over here, I'm just on the calendar icon under my 2025 garden. If I were to go down here to tasks, that is going to show you that I don't have any tasks right now. That's because I don't have any other seeds in here. But if I go to the 15th, it'll show you that I completed all of those by planting those on March 15th. So now I'm going to add more crops. And what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to go back to the calendar icon. And then up here in the right-hand corner, it says to add crop. So I'm going to click on that. And then I'm going to choose a category. And the first one that I'm going to do is I'm going to do a couple more broccoli rabe varieties. So I'm just going to type in here broccoli, and it's going to ask me, do I want broccoli or do I want broccoli rabe? And I'm going to choose broccoli rabe, and then I'm going to enter the variety right here, and this is spring rapini. And they don't have that already in here, so I'm just going to go ahead and click create. And then click on it again, and now that has completed that. Now I could label where I'm going to put this, but I have not decided that yet, so I'm going to leave that alone. And I can also, custom colorize this if I would like to. This is asking if I want to transplant this or if I want to direct seed that. I definitely want to transplant that, so I'm going to leave that like there. And this is saying that this should be started 49 days before your last frost date, and we are past that. So I am going to leave that alone here for just a second, and then I'm going to go ahead and click schedule, and that has now put that into my crops. And then there's one more I want to add, and that is a standard broccoli. So I'm going to choose standard broccoli, and then the variety is Calabrese. And so from the drop down, I'm going to just choose that variety. And again, I'm just going to come down here and click schedule. And then I can go ahead and put those seeds back in their container here. and set them aside and move on to the next one. And for the next one, I'm gonna do onions. Now, it's late for onions. It is really late for onions. These should have been started in February. We're already at the end of March. So the only varieties I'm gonna do are some bunching onions, but I'll go ahead and I'll put one, like my shallots, because that's what's on top here. I'll put those in here and show you what it looks like when you're really overdue for something. So I'm just gonna, again, hit add crop, and we're gonna do onions. And the variety is Ishikura. There it is. So I'm gonna click on that. I'm gonna go ahead and schedule. And the next one, upper right-hand corner, another onion. And this variety is called Heshiko, and I didn't spell that right, bunching Heshiko, this one right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and click that and schedule down here at the bottom. And one more, and that's onion. And this variety is called Tokyo Long White Bunching. There it is. I'm going to click on that and then just hit schedule down here at the bottom. Now, actually, we are pretty late on this one. You can see that that should have been seed started on March 10th, but I'm not worried about the bunching onions because they don't need to get into a big bulb. But if I were to go ahead and put in, say, the shallots, so let's do onion, and these are zebra shallots or zebrune shallots right here. And I'm going to go ahead and add that, so schedule that. And now if I were to go over to my task list, it's going to show me the things that are overdue. So you can see here it says overdue, and it's listing all of those onions that I just put in here. And if we look at these shallots, this should have been started on February 3rd. This does need to bulb, and so I'm not gonna bother growing that. The bunching onions, they will be fine. I'm not worried about those. I can start those now. But anything that needs a season to get to a big bulb, I'm not going to even try. So, and I love my Azure Standard onions, so I'm okay with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna take that out. I'm gonna click back on the calendar icon, and I'm gonna go find my onions, and I'm gonna take out that shallot. So here it is, it's onions number 3. And I'm gonna click on the menu 3 dots right here, and I'm just gonna delete. You don't want to leave any crops in your seed time app that you're not actually planting that year. I made that mistake the first year. I literally went through and I put all of my seed varieties in there. And if you didn't plant it, it just keeps telling that you're overdue or you have a task, and it's just annoying. So I don't put them in. I like to do it year by year. So this is my 2025 garden. Because I am going to be planting these right now because they're overdue, I'm gonna leave these out and just set them aside. And next I'm gonna go with some greens. So I'm gonna add crop again. And my variety is going to be Asian greens, which is actually the first one that pops up here. And the variety is Koma, yep, there it is, Old Tokyo Komatsuna. And we're gonna add that and schedule. And then the next one is Scarlet Kale, so I'm gonna add that one. There's Scarlet Kale right there, so I can go ahead and add that and schedule. And next one is Kale Blue Curled Scotch Bonnet. And there it is right there, so Blue Curled Scotch. And I can go ahead and schedule that. And next is Kale Red Ursula. Or Red Ursa, sorry. There we go, and add that to the schedule. And next we have some Dinosaur Kale. And variety is going to be Narrow, this one right here. And we're gonna schedule that. And then one more, and this is Kale Black Magic. And these seeds are from These seeds were harvested for the 2020 growing season, so these are 5 years old. We'll see if we get any germination from those. And there's Black Magic. And those are done. And let's see when those are due. If I go back to my task area, so the kale are overdue. The kale should have been started, or could have been started, I should say, on March 3rd. So we're gonna go ahead and start those today. So I'm gonna keep those out just on top of the seed box. And next I've got some spinach. So we're gonna go back to the calendar icon, and then in the upper right-hand corner, we're gonna add crop, and we're gonna type in spinach, and there it is. And the first variety I have here is the Swiss chard perpetual spinach. There it is. And just hit schedule. And then Giant Noble. Add crop. And type in the variety. Giant Noble. And hit schedule. And then one more spinach. And the variety is Bloomsdale Longstanding. There it is right there. And schedule. So the SeedTime app does have a lot of varieties already built into its library, but if you don't find something, you can just custom add it. And now I'm just going to double check when those were supposed to be done by going to my task list, and let's see if they're overdue. They are not overdue, so we're good on those. So I'm just going to put those back in their seed container and set this aside because we don't have to worry about that today. And next, I'm definitely going to be growing some beets, and I'm also going to try carrots again. I really wanted to get pelleted carrot seeds this year to try those because my carrot cultivating skills are hit or miss. Sometimes I get carrots, sometimes I don't get carrots, but I didn't order any. So I'm just going to go with what I have. We'll just dedicate a smaller area. And I buy carrots in bulk from Azure Standard. I buy them as seconds. They're really inexpensive that way, and you get like 25 pounds for a good price, and then I can get them preserved. But I definitely keep practicing with carrots. So I've only had 1 year of some really good harvested carrots, but all right, so we're gonna go back to calendar and add crop. Oop, my fingers are on the wrong keys. It's a new computer and it's bigger than I'm used to. So my fingers are still getting used to where everything is. C-A-R-R-O-T-S, enter, and the varieties I'm gonna do, I'm gonna start with this one, which is Imperator. There we go. And add that. And St. Valerie is my next carrot. And it's not coming up, so I'm just going to create it. And there it is, created for me, and schedule. I'm just going to try with two varieties of the carrots. Like I said, it's not something that I regularly have a good result from, so I'm just going to dedicate a small amount of space, 2 varieties, that's it. I do definitely have a lot more variety in here, but I don't want to waste garden space or my time and effort. So add crop, we're going to do some beets. And the beets I'm going to grow this year is these Eagle beets. This is an F1 hybrid, and these were sold for the 2020 garden season. They're getting old, but I'm still getting germination off of them. Eagle F1, and you can see that it is under my custom variety. So Eagle F1, meaning I entered that in as a variety. And then we've got Bull's Blood. Bull's Blood, and we'll add those, and then one more, and that is Golden Beets. Golden. And that takes care of my beets. And I'm gonna go ahead and schedule that. So we don't have to do those right now. You can see that they're not overdue. So I'm gonna go ahead and put those back in the case here and set them aside. And if you have the Seed Time app on your phone, because you can get it in the App Store, you'll actually get an alert if you opt in for alerts on there to tell you, oh, it's time to do your beets or time to do whatever. So I find the Seed Time app is really helpful in that way. All right, so over here, this is my roots and bulbs, and the only thing that I'm gonna do in here, because it's way too late for celery, is fennel. That's all I'm gonna do from in here this year. So we're gonna go back to calendar and add crop fennel. And this variety is Florence. It's not pulling up, so I'm gonna create the Florence variety. There it is, and add it. So schedule, and let's double check our task list. Nope, I don't see that. But if we go back to calendar, I can also check here. So I might have to go further forward. Maybe C, D, there it is, there's fennel. So fennel, 28 days before last frost. Yeah, so that's further on in the growing season. And that's why it's not showing up over here on this left-hand side, because right now we are still in the March calendar icon, if you can see that here. All right, so I'm gonna set this aside because we do not need to do fennel this weekend. And when you create a garden in here, so I could actually do that. I've got a drop down here. So I started a new garden this year because, as I said, when I first started Seed Time, I put all of my seeds in there. And so this one is way out of control. It has thousands of tasks that have not been completed. So, but if you were to add a new calendar, or I think maybe you only get one calendar if you do the free version of this, but that's okay. You would just name your calendar, and then you would put in your, here's a zip code I used to live in when I lived in California. So and it automatically populates that it's a 9B growing zone. Average last frost date is February 17th. Average first frost date is November 28th. Hard frost is usually January 1st, and first hard frost is December 16th. It helps the Seed Time app tell you when to start and transplant and even harvest the seeds that you plant, or the varieties that you plant. And so that's how you would start a new garden in here, and then you would save changes and just be on your way. So I'm gonna get all of these entered, and then once they're all entered, I will show you how the rest of this looks and how easy it is to use. And then I'll show you how the little baby plants are doing, which ones have germinated, which ones have not germinated, using my foil pan method that is super easy and super inexpensive. So I'm gonna get these entered, and then we'll go on from there. So that took maybe an hour for me to go through all of the seeds, get them all entered into here. I made little tags for them because we're gonna get started on the seeds that, quite frankly, I'm behind on, but we're still gonna start them. And then I also got my foil seed starting tray ready to go. I showed how to do this 2 weeks ago, and I'll go ahead and I'll pop that video right up here if you're interested. I use a seed starting mix that does come with nutrients in it, and I soak that in boiling water because I want to kill any fungus gnat eggs that might be in there, any other type of creature eggs that might be in there, so that my house doesn't get overrun with those, because they're really hard to get rid of and they're very annoying. So I'm all set now. So let's go back to here, and I'm going to show you exactly where we're at. So I have essentially entered in everything that I plan on putting in my garden this year. And if we look here, you can see that we're still showing in March, but you know what? It's only going to be showing me the things that are relevant to this time frame. If I were to bring this forward into, let's say, June, you're going to see a whole lot more in here. And over here on the calendar page, you're going to see all of my crops. So I've got some Asian greens that I'm going to be doing. I've got some balm that I'm going to be doing. Sorry, new computer, getting used to the mouse. Some balm. I've got all the basils that I plan to grow this year. The beets. I'm going to do some borage, some some different types of broccoli and broccoli rabe. I'm going to do some calendulas, the only 2 calendula seeds that I have left, a couple of carrots, the cilantros that I have, the collards, some cosmos, some cucumbers, some dill. I'm going to do some dry beans again this year. Pintos will be new for me. I bought those a year or 2 ago, and I haven't planted them yet. The Good Mother Stallard beans I absolutely love, and the succotash beans I absolutely love, and I haven't grown those for a few years. So I'm going to do some of those. I'm going to do edamame because we do like that as a snack. And of course the eggplants. I'm going to do fennel. I'm going to do some different types of bush green beans and pole green beans. 3 different types of ground cherries. This one looks to be in here twice, so I'm going to actually delete one. Yes, I must have entered that twice. Some different types of kales. My lettuces that I'm growing this year. I'm going to grow my marigolds, some marjoram herb, some milkweed, some nasturtiums, the bunching onions, 2 different types of peas. I only put 2 in here, but I'll put whatever variety I want. Basically one is a snow pea and the other is a snap pea. I'm not gonna grow shelling peas because those are just too easy to buy at the grocery store if I want those, or even at Azure Standard I buy them in bulk because I use them a lot in my dog food. There's no way I can grow enough peas for that. So we like the snow and the snap just for fresh eating, and now also recently for freeze drying into crunchy snacks. I've got all my peppers that I'm growing listed in here. I'm going to do some petunias, some poppies, 2 different types of pumpkins this year, some rosemary, some rutabaga. I'm going to start a new sage plant because mine is getting pretty woody, so we'll see if we can establish a new one and replace it. I'm going to do some spinach, some summer squashes. I'm going to do some sunflowers. I'm going to do tarragon, which I do every year, the tomatillas. I've listed out all the tomatoes that I plan to do, and I'm going to get rid of one of these toothache plants because apparently it is a duplicate, so we'll get rid of one of those. Winter squash, I've listed out the winter squash I want to grow. Yarrow, okay, so yarrow. I am utterly amazed with the medicinal properties of yarrow. It is absolutely incredible. I have been using what I preserved last summer just in a tea form, a non-edible tea form. I haven't tried drinking it, but just getting the dried leaves and pouring boiling water over that in a mason jar with a fitted lid, and then just let it steep and cool down. And oh my goodness, that stuff works amazing as a compress on anything. I've used it on hot spots on my dogs. I've used it on skin irritation on me. It just works phenomenal. And I also did a video talking about this where when I had family here last summer, they used it on canker sores and on acne, and it cleared everything up within 24 hours. I am sold on this, and so I want to get some more established. I'm going to grow all the zinnias that I have as well. So this looks to be about everything that I'll be growing in my garden this year. So if I come back to March, and let's go ahead and look at our task list. So these are the ones that are showing overdue: the bunching onions, the kale, the marjoram, the petunia, the rosemary, and the yarrow. So those are the seeds that I'm going to get started today. And so I have those seed packets here, and that's 12 different varieties. So I'm just going to use 1 foil pan for that. Now, if you, like for me, this is saying these onions should have been started in February. We're at the end of March, but they're bunching. They don't have to bulb up, so I feel okay about that. What I can do is I can go back to my calendar and I can find those. So let's look for onions right here. The onions, which we know we're late on. So let's go to Tokyo Long right here, this first one. And it is saying that we need to start those 91 days before our last frost date, but we're past that. So every task in here is going to be related to 91 days prior to the last frost date. So I can click on this and I can change it. So instead of 13 weeks before the last frost date, we are about 6 weeks before the last frost date right now. So I'm gonna drop that down to 6 and schedule. And we're going to do that with all of those. So just clicking into it and seeding 6 weeks before our last frost date. and 6 weeks before our last frost date. So now all the tasks will be based off of starting them now, and then it will right size it all the way through the season. Some of the other ones that were late on, if I go back to my task list, is the kale. So let's go to the kale section. So I'm gonna go back to calendar and we're gonna find the kales, alphabetized, and we're gonna change each one to 6 weeks before the last frost date. Schedule. So you can customize this however works best for you. And the third one. And the fourth one. That one, I guess I already did that one. So let's try this one. All right, so these all look to be done, or maybe it's going back up at the top where I need to change it. Yeah, okay. So it was just moving them down the list. So let's try Red Ursula. 6 weeks. All right, I think we're good on kale. So if we go back to our task list, what else are we late on here? Black Magic. Okay, I've got to get the Black Magic kale. So if I go back down to kale and Black Magic, and we're going to change that to 6 weeks. And then I'm going to go back to tasks over here on the left-hand side. And now I need to pick up marjoram, petunia, rosemary, and yarrow. So we'll go to marjoram, petunia. So here's marjoram. We're going to do that 6 weeks before our last frost date. So we're 2 weeks late on that. That's okay. Let's save that. Marjoram, petunia. Petunias should have been done 2 weeks ago. I meant to. When I had all the seeds out last time, I forgot. Rosemary. And there was one more. I think it was yarrow. There it is. Okay, now we shouldn't be late on anything. If we check our task list for right now, we are not overdue on anything, so that's good. We're going to go ahead and get these planted, and I want to show you, let's see if it saves my layout in here. No, I'm gonna have to put everything in here because I started a new garden. That is okay. If I go back to my other garden, like if I go back to my original, my garden, I'll show you what that looks like. I'll go to my layout. Here it is. So I have about 23 beds. So all this area right here is beds. This is, depicting my garage, and this is a back deck. These are just all my individual green stock tiers, so I can plan what's going in those individually. Then I also have some planters. These orange dots down here are all planters. This blue shaded area in here is representative of my pool, and I have planters all around there, and that's where like the zinnias and things go. These little brown dots here are big planters where I currently have most of my herbs, and that is true for these brown dots here too. I think the layout is what you don't get with a free Seed Time account, but everything else I think you get. You certainly get the planning. And I'm gonna switch back to the garden I just did for 2025. You also have a new feature here that they didn't have before, which is journal. So this is really nice, especially because they have a Seed Time app that you can use on your phone now. So as I go outside, if I notice things, if I notice like when the cucumber beetles come or any of the other pests come, I can make note of that in my journal. And then moving forward, I'm going to make a concentrated effort to start using this in January for the planning. Because if I would have done that this January, I would have been able to go through all of my seeds, see what I was out of, make my seed order for that year, start planning the garden, start planning the layout. I still have to do the layout as you saw, so I have to decide where everything is going. That's also going to depend on what germinates versus what doesn't germinate, because again, I'm working with some pretty old seeds here. Now, you know, we're off to a good start. I have 2 trays already started. Today we're going to get the 3rd tray started, and then we're not behind on anything else. So the seed time app is just going to tell me, it's actually going to pop up a message on my phone letting me know, hey, you need to get the bed outside ready to do your transplants, or you need to start seeding this or direct sowing that. It just makes it so easy, because if you're like me, you've got a lot of other things going on, and it can be sometimes hard to keep track of all of this. So we're going to go ahead and put the computer away, and we are going to get seeds planted. And this is just going to take a minute, so we are almost done. So I have a full tray here of moistened dirt. This was boiling hot water that I poured on here, although it has calmed down quite a bit. And all I'm going to do, since I have 12 different seeds that I'm going to start today, I'm going to make 12 sections. And 3 times 4 is 12. So I'm going to do 4 this way and 3 this way. So I'm just going to divide this in half using a chopstick. I'm just going to push it down in there a little bit to make an indentation, and then do half again from that middle one that I made, and then half again on the other side. So that gives me 4 sections that way. And then I can do 3 sections coming down this way. And since the chopstick doesn't reach all the way down, I'm going to flip that and do that again. And now I have 12 cells, if you will, to grow seeds in. And as you can see, we've got some dividing lines in here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And I have some tags that I have numbered, and I will show you that as well before we end here. But I'm going to start with 42, and I'm just going to put the 42 tag, the 43, these came out of order, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53. And I'm doing this because I am tired of having to buy new tags. And these are my indoor tags, these are my seed starting tags. And instead of trying to write really small on here what the varieties are, I'm just numbering them. And that way I can reuse these tags. And then these correspond to an Excel sheet that I have. And I've already created that. So actually we're not quite done with the computer yet. Here are all the seeds that I started on 3/15. So I've listed them per the position or the number that I have written on the tag, and then the variety, the date that I started the seeds, and I actually have the sprout date here as well. So the only thing that hasn't sprouted so far is this eggplant purple globe. That was a seed save. And that was last year was my first year trying to save eggplant seeds, and either I did it wrong or they weren't viable for some reason, but so far nothing has germinated. And I also don't have any little fingers coming up yet, so there might still be hope for this one. We'll see. The Black Hungarian has not yet sprouted, nor has the Anaheim or the Ruia, the sweet banana peppers, or the lunchbox peppers. So I'm still waiting for those to germinate, but everything else has that I planted. And then here's today's date, 3/29. And this is what I'm going to be planting today. So in position 42, I'm going to do that Ishikura bunching onion. And that is going to be right here. And so I'm just going to find that. That is this one. And I'm just going to surface sow some of these seeds because they are tiny. And we're just going to press them in. So I've got a nice little handful here of those seeds. I'm going to make sure that I don't get them in any other cell, and I'm just going to, move my fingers and drop pinch some on top of the soil here. And that is probably plenty. I'm just gonna push those down. We'll drop just a tiny little bit of soil over the top of those when we're done. So that is these, and I'll put these seeds back. Next on our list is the Hashiko bunching onions. So those ones are here. This is an MI Gardner variety, and this was, does it have a date on here? This was for 2023, so these are 2 years old. And just gonna carefully drop those just onto this little bed here. And I find that onion seedlings transplant super easy. You can tease them apart, so you can plant these really close together and then just separate them when they need their own space. And next we have the Tokyo long white bunching. So that is gonna go into 44, which is right here. And I just really find that this method is so much easier. You don't have all those cell, the big like 36 or 72 cell plastic things that you need to wash. Unless you buy the really nice expensive ones, they're gonna crack on you after just a couple of years. Whereas these trays you can use over and over again. You get plenty enough space in here for starting seeds. It's so cheap, it's so economical, it works so well. All right, next we are going to do some petunias, and that is going in 45, so this corner one here. And these are tiny seeds, tiny seeds. So these we're just gonna sprinkle on the top and barely press in. So tiny. So I'm not going to drop any more soil on top of this one because they don't need it. They'll get buried under there and they won't be able to push through the surface. They won't have enough energy to do that. Next is the marjoram. So marjoram is gonna go in cell 46, which is right here. So I'm just gonna drop some marjoram in there. These also are super tiny, tiny, just like those petunias, and I don't need a million marjoram plants. So I'm just gonna do a light sprinkle and push those in. This is not gonna get any more soil on top of it either because those seeds they're so, so tiny. After marjoram is rosemary. So here is my rosy rosemary, and that is gonna go into 47 bed, which is right there. This is also, well, these are a little bigger, tiny bit bigger. So we'll sprinkle those around, we'll push them in, and then we will add a tiny bit of soil on the top of this. And this, I'm really way over sowing this. You probably only need 3 or 4 seeds to get 3 or 4 plants. My seeds are old. So germination rate has been dropping, and so I'll just overcompensate for that. Next, we're gonna do the yarrow, and that's gonna go in 48, which is right here. I'm so glad I had another packet of this. I thought I was out of it because this is amazing, as I said, just amazing. All right, and that again is gonna go in 48, which is right here. These again are tiny seeds. So we're just gonna get those pressed in and maybe do a tiny drop of soil over the top of them. Just so they're covered. They probably don't even need it, honestly. Nope, they don't need it. I'm able to get them down in there, and we don't want to bury them too deep. So far we're going to do 3 with no extra soil on them, and then we're going to move on here to the Black Magic Kale. Now these seeds are really old. We'll see if we still get germination on these, but I love kale. Absolutely love it. That's way too many seeds. And that's gonna go in 49, which is right here. I'm just gonna drop those around and push them in. These will get a little soil over the top of them. And then next we have the kale blue curled scotch, and that's gonna go in 50, which is right here. And that's this guy. Those will get a little coverage over the top of them as well. And then we are gonna go in with the dino kale in 51. And that is this guy. And I mean, you don't need a lot of seeds. That's why my seeds are so old, because they send you so many, and there's no way you can get through an entire seed packet most of the time in a year or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. So I'm trying to use up what I have before I start buying more or different varieties. Okay, and then we have the red Ursa kale. That's this guy, and that's gonna go in 52. And I just pulled out way more seeds than I needed to, but we do like kale, so we'll see what we got. This I can grow in my green stock, I can grow in a container, I can grow in a bed, I can grow in the ground. And then last but not least is the scarlet kale. Now this one is not necessarily my favorite. It's very pretty, but I tend to like the green kales better. That was plenty of seeds. And we'll get those pushed in. And I have a big container here that has all my wet soil in it, and I'm just gonna take some and drop it over the top, just so they have a little bit of coverage. I don't wanna bury them too deep. I don't wanna tamp it down too firmly. And this is nice and wet from me pouring the boiling water over it. So these are gonna be good to go. All I have to do is stick these right onto my grow shelf, and they'll be fine. And I'm gonna put them on a heat mat. They'll germinate faster with some heat. By the way, I am not sponsored by Seed Time at all. I am just showing you how I tend to get behind if I'm not organized. And Seed Time is an app that really does help keep me organized. So as long as I use it. So I am not sponsored, just so you know. Just drop in a little bit of soil over the top of the ones that need it. And that is all we are doing, and we are done. So it does not take a lot of time. It's not hard work getting seeds started. It's more time consuming up front when you're trying to organize and figure out what you want to do. And having an app like Seed Time just makes it all that much more easy. So let's get these over to the grow shelf. Here is where I'm gonna put our, I need that. Here's where we're gonna put our new seedlings. They're on the heat mat. They don't necessarily need the light to be closer to the mat because they haven't sprouted yet. So that's those. Here is some of the ones that we did 2 weeks ago. Look how lovely this is looking. Sky wants to say hello. Hi, Sky. Hi. So these look fantastic. And these are gonna be probably potted up, some of them. These are lettuces here in the front. Here's some broccolis. The broccolis are almost ready to be potted up. And then we've got some peppers in the back here. These are looking fantastic. The only one that hasn't germinated is 21 and 22. Those are two of the peppers that I mentioned hadn't germinated yet. And then over here, we've got eggplants and some peppers, and those are looking great too. This method works fantastic, and it is so easy. Down here, I've got them seeded on some Bootstrap Farmer 1020 trays just to boost them up. I'm using 2 trays on this one, and I can keep lowering these until they're at the right height based on how quickly these grow before I pot them up. But this is my setup. These lights here, these are just garage lights. I'll put the name of them up here. I got these on Amazon a handful of years ago. They're pretty inexpensive. They work really well. And yeah, this is how I start seeds. And it works for me. It works really well. Thank you so much for joining me for another edition of Sunday Fun Day, where we got more seeds done, but not only that, we got caught up on garden planning. I feel a lot better about where we are, and if I have to buy starts for the things that I'm too late on, that's okay. Azure Standard has a great variety of starts available. I've already got some in my cart for my April order, and then there's always the farmer's market or even the box stores that are local here. So don't stress. If you're late on your seeds and you want to plant a garden, I highly encourage you to do that, especially now, especially in 2025. It's just getting harder and harder to make ends meet, and this is an easy way to help offset that. My name is Kelly. You're at A Better Choice Homestead, and I do hope you come back and visit again soon.